Hi, my name is Michael Bazushko. I'm a librarian here at Kent Library at SEMO, and I'm going to talk to you today about using artificial intelligence for doing literature reviews. So basically, how to use AI when you're doing research. I'm sure you've heard some warnings about using artificial intelligence while you're doing work here at SEMO, and there's a lot to think about there. This is just kind of an introduction to some ways you might use artificial intelligence when you're doing research in a legitimate and thoughtful way. And this isn't going to cover everything. These are just a few tools that I know of right now, and more tools come out all the time. But this is just going to be a helpful way to think about using AI in the future while you do your research. So first, let's go over a couple terms. What is a literature review? A literature review is a comprehensive survey of published research on a specific topic. In basic terms, it's a summary of what other people have already said. So when you start doing a research paper, maybe you're going to have to look up everything that people have said. What are the most important papers? Who are the most important researchers? You're going to find them, read what they've said, and build your opinion around that. So the process of doing one of these is generally you're going to identify the most important works, right? Articles, books, documents, whatever you need, whatever your research is about. What are the most important things you need to go through? Identify the most important researchers. Who are the people who kind of publish the most and talk the most about this, who get cited a lot? You're going to acquire all that information, read through all those relevant sources, and you're going to create your own annotations for those resources. So you're going to make those notes saying, here's what I read, here's kind of what it said, kind of notes for yourself, and say, how does it relate to my idea or what I'm going to say about it? Some people, they might want to just jump in and use AI to save them a lot of time. They might just go to ChatGPT and say, give me the most important articles about my subject. That seems like a fast way of getting the project done. Or they'll say, tell me the most important researchers in this topic. Just give me the stuff, I'll go find it, very easy. The problem with that, of course, is there are some examples here. AI, sometimes if you ask for help, it's going to try to help you even if it has to make up sources. So there have been some law firms, they've said, give me some sources, some cases that back what I'm trying to do here in my case. It's given them these sources, but these cases don't exist. It just makes them up, right? There's been ebooks published where there's just made up citations. And even the government has published reports now that show AI making up citations for some of the things that they want to say. So we have to avoid these issues. How can we do that? There's a few ways to use AI really simply. If you just want to use ChatGPT or something, instead of saying, give me the most important articles about my subject, you could say, walk me through how I might find the most important articles about my subject in an academic database. See, because then you're doing the work. You're saying, what search terms might I use? Just give me a little help here. And then you can go to the library databases and look through them using those skills, using those tools that it's given you. But you're still doing the work. You're still finding real results. In the same way, instead of saying, tell me the most important researchers in this topic, you could say, how might I identify the most important researchers on this topic? And it'll give you some ideas, possibly some tools to help you do that. So if you just want to use ChatGPT, that's one way of doing it. But I'm going to introduce a few specialized AIs that are designed for research, or tools that are featuring AI that are used for research that I think you might really find useful. All right, so the first tool we're going to look at is Semantic Scholar. So you can see I've put in sleep deprivation, academic performance, and college students, because sometimes when we're in college, we don't get enough sleep. What effect might that have on our academic performance? Let's do a search. And it's similar to Google Scholar, but I really like the layout here. For one, I think it's very easy to sort by citation count. So I can say, which of these articles has been cited a lot? Which of these is really important and have other people found useful? So this article has been cited 1,000 times. So this is probably a pretty strong article. I think a lot of people have read this and cited it, which means if I'm interested in this topic, it's probably something I should be familiar with as well. I also like this little TLDR, too long didn't read. You can expand this, and it gives the abstract from the paper, but it also gives you a little AI generated version of what the paper looks at, just to get a very quick view of if this is going to be useful for you. So it's a simple tool. I think it's an interesting place to start. Once you find an article, sometimes the PDF is available and you can read it here. If not, you can maybe go through one of our databases and find it through that. But it's a really useful way to kind of quickly find highly cited papers based on the content you're looking for. All right, the next tool we're going to look at is called Connected Papers. And this helps you find other papers that are similar to papers you've already found. So I found this paper, which is about sleep quality, duration, and academic performance in college students. And I want to search for this paper. I'm going to use this number here, the DOI. This is just a number given to this paper, and it helps me identify this paper in other databases. Now you can see on Connected Papers, I could just put in the paper's title, but since I have the DOI, I'll paste that in, and the paper pops up, and it creates this really cool web. So what this web is showing you is a number of articles that are related to this paper. So the bigger a point is, the more times it's been cited. So we can see our original paper here. It's been cited quite a few times, but there's some other pretty well cited papers in here as well. And the closer a point is, the more similar the paper is to our original paper. So if we go here, we see about chronic sleep reduction is associated with academic achievement in higher education students. Very similar to what we're talking about here. So if we go over here to this paper, it might not be quite as similar, but it's also highly cited, probably an important paper to look at if we're interested in this material. Now you can see I've already used 2 of my free graphs this month. Connected Papers isn't free, but there's another tool called Research Rabbit, which is free. So Research Rabbit looks like this. I really like Connected Papers. I think it's easier to use, but because Research Rabbit is free, I'll show you how to use it. I can add a paper. Once again, I can use my DOI here. So I'll add that. And in a very similar way, it makes a web. And you can dive into this information in a number of different ways. There's lots of different filters you can use. You can look for other articles by these authors or suggested authors. There's lots of ways to search in this web. It works in a very similar way. And I just wanted to show you a free version of what Connected Papers has to offer as well. All right, and one of the last tools I'm going to show you is something called Elicit. So we can ask a research question to generate a structured research report. So if I put in a question like, what are the effects of sleep deprivation on the academic performance of college students? It'll actually tell me if this is a good research question or not. So this is pretty useful. It'll actually give me other search terms. If I'm looking for a very specific kind of study, it'll help me identify those as well. But if I go ahead and search for this, so it creates this really impressive research report. It's gone through a number of sources, all of these academic journal articles, and assembled them in a way where it can compare all of the different kinds of studies that have been done, all of the different metrics, and what they discovered about these things. Not only that, you can actually click on any of these little footnotes, get more information directly from the report, and you can go look up these reports yourself. And that's something I always recommend doing. Never take an AI abstract or an AI report at its word. Always go and find the original report, track the information down. You can't cite this AI report as a source, but you can go and actually find the real articles in our databases once AI has helped you locate them, and you'll be able to get your information from the original source. And one final tool that's quite a bit like Elicit is Consensus AI. And this one does pretty well with yes and no questions. So I'm going to phrase it as, does sleep deprivation affect the academic performance of college students? And I'll do a search. And you can see what Consensus tries to do is it tries to find, is there a consensus in the literature? It goes through academic articles and it looks for anybody who's had done studies where it says yes, maybe it says no, maybe it says possibly. In this case, most people agree that sleep deprivation does affect the performance of college students. It goes through the key findings, contributing factors, but what's really nice is once again, it goes through the results. So I can actually go and look for these journal articles. Instead of just relying on this AI output, it'll actually help me identify some articles which might be useful, which it found useful when it was also looking up this question. And then I can cite the actual article itself. So hopefully that gave you a few things, a few ideas on how you might use AI when doing legitimate research. Things to remember. Don't ask AI to find resources. If you ask AI to find resources, it wants to help you, so it'll make up resources if it has to, if it thinks that's the way to help you. Instead, ask AI to help you find resources. Don't find the resources itself, right? Say, how might I find these? Can you assist me? What search terms might I use? AI can be really, really useful for that. And it's still your job to check all of the information AI provides. Anything you get from AI, go find the original source, the original article, make sure it's real, make sure it says what AI said it said, and cite the original article. If you have any other questions on these things, make sure to hit the Ask Us button on the library website. There's ways to get in touch with us in person. We're usually at the front desk. You can email us, you can call us, whatever works for you, and we are there to help you with any of your research questions. Thank you.